Hello, and welcome, Turkish Films Daily Chess. Today we're doing Daily Chess Analysis, Episode 10. And I went over this game fairly briefly because the mistakes were kind of very easy to point out. And they're kind of a pattern that I've sort of developed, that I've even seen on this channel that I have, which is maybe basically not identifying what the driving motivators of the position are. And we'll see that same thing happen here. Okay. So my opponent started off with e4, c5, Sicilian, and he played bishop c4, a move I face quite a lot. This is called the Bowdler attack. And it's considered not super good. It's not that black is winning or anything, but it kind of gives away some of the stuff that white would have otherwise. So one thing this does is points out this square, but also the bishop is somewhat subject to attack. So we play e6. And e6 does two things. One, it cuts off the bishop. Sorry, it does three things. It cuts off the bishop, it allows the bishop to defend the pawn, and it supports a d5 push. So all that from one thing. You could argue it lets the queen out too, but we don't really care about that. Here he played a3, which I know is not that great of a move. Normally they'll develop their knight, and I'll play a3 with the intention of b5. Also, I can also play d5. So if I play a3, they'll try to stop a3 sometimes. I'd rather have d5 than b5, but b5 has the benefit of letting my bishop in the game. Okay, and we get, normally we get that kind of bowl structure that I really like in the Sicilian, having pawns here, 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 and the knight there. Anyway, he played a6, and since he already moved this bishop, if he wants to go here to try to pin my knight after I move the d-pawn, he'll have wasted a turn, and a3 will have definitely been a waste of time. He played d3 here, which I hadn't seen this before with a3 and d3. Normally he would have had one of his knights out by now. And I said, hey, the knight's job there is to stop me from playing d5. You haven't stopped me from playing d5. So I did. In the Bowdler, this bishop is kind of easy to attack. And so he gave me the opportunity, so I did it right away. And you can see this after he has to go back. Black has a small edge, right? 0.5. That's an edge normally white has. And black's achieved it. And I'd say that's partially because of this a3 move. He doesn't have his pieces developed, and I start developing. So I have two pieces out to his one piece, right? Okay, he played knight to f3, which lets me check him, right? I wasn't really interested in checking him because often they just develop their pieces how they want to anyway. Obviously there he would lose his bishop, and here after takes he would lose his queen. But normally I'm not inclined to just try to check him so early, especially if I don't know exactly what I'm getting. In this case, he would have definitely had to lose castling, which is nice. But maybe that's not worth everything. And so here I sort of went wrong. I thought, I want to castle and his king's open, right? So my castling was higher on my priority list than his king being in the center. And that was the wrong priority system. So here I played bishop e7. And in the game, you can hear I was debating between bishop e7 and d6. And I was thinking, well, if there's a pin, I don't want to have to bring my bishop back to block the pin. Also, if my bishop's here, it's stopping my queen from defending this d-pawn. What I should have been thinking about is, what does my opponent have in the position? And my opponent has this pin here. So I should probably play h6. Even though in the game that I played, I think just yesterday, or 2 days ago, they played this h6 move, and it wasn't that great of a move. Here, it's somehow beneficial. Now the computer's coming along to the idea of bishop e6 instead. Okay, but I played bishop e7. He played h3, which stops me from pinning his bishop in preparation of castling. Castling, very good move. And bishop g5 comes in. And now we can see why h6 would have been a little bit better maybe than bishop e7. Okay, but I play h6 now, and he went back here. And now there's a way that I can. He played h3 so he could castle. So now that he's invested kind of one move into castling, this is a dual purpose move. It stops this, but it also gives lift for the king later. So since he's already invested a move here, if we can force him to not castle, then we have an advantage. We have some pull. And so the move here to do that is knight h5, and we'll go into why. But I played rook to e8, trying to exploit his king. But it's his turn, so he just castles. And my advantage just evaporated. Since he played bishop d2, which stays on the line of my queen and bishop battery, I have a 1.4 advantage. If he had gone back here, 1.4 is nearly winning. If he had gone back to d2, just saving the bishop, sure, it would have been a waste of time, but he could have kind of guaranteed that he could have, been safe and castled and those kinds of things. In this position, however, after knight to h5, I'm threatening to win a piece because bishop captures, knight captures, queen captures. He gave up 2 pieces for my 1. So his options are either to take my bishop or to move his bishop back. You don't want to defend the bishop because that would be horrible. After takes, if you take, your pawn structure is messed up. You have nothing defending your king. So that would be a positional error. Also, there's other problems with it, but I won't get into that now. And if bishop captures e7, queen captures with check. And now, what are the legal ways he can get out of check? Well, he could sack a knight. We're not going to talk about that. If he blocks with the queen, I take the queen, and he loses castling. Right? That's very good for us because our rook is already ready. Or he has to move to the side, which is what the computer recommends. But either way, he lost castling, and this rook is going to have a hard time getting in the game, especially after a move like h3. Because you'd like to, if your king has to go to king f1, to play h4, and then let your rook out, and then let your rook out this way. That'd be your preferred method of getting your rook in the game. But now that you've played h3, it becomes even worse for you. Now the alternative would be trying to go back, but I'd probably just take this off. And after taking, his king counter structure is quite damaged, so castling seems maybe slightly risky here. I could just start attacking weaknesses right away. After bishop d6, it says he castles anyway, and just gives me the pawn. And I'd be very happy to play that position, where he has lots of dark square weaknesses, and my bishop is here, kind of penetrating already. Yeah, and so even though it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, rook e8, right, lining up with the king, it's not taking notice or stock of what's happening in the position. His king's in the center and mine's not, and while this move does attempt to exploit that, it's his turn. So we got to play forcing moves first. And knight to h5 is definitely a forcing move, because I'm threatening to win a piece here. So you have to do something about it. This move, as we saw, pretty much loses a pawn, or his king gets really unsafe. And if he takes this bishop, he loses castling. So his options are give me a pawn, or lose castling. That's what knight h5 does. Rook e8 just says, I'm developing, and that's all. And so that's why rook e8, such an automatic move, isn't useful. Knight h5, great move. Also, the knight can come into the attack if it needs to, hitting some important squares. Alright, but I didn't play that. I played rook e8, and he castled to safety. So now he's very happy. I played bishop e6. I don't think I'd play g5. His queen can come in here. So knight c3 makes a lot of sense. And I played d4 here. Trying to trade bishops, because he spent a lot of time and work to get this bishop here. So if I can make it look silly, I will. He took on f6. I took back. He moved his knight, because it was attacked by the pawn. I take here. He takes with the rook. I move my bishop. So his rook is in a funny spot. So he moved his rook back, which I was happy about, because now it's my turn again, right? And if we assess the pieces, right, he has 2 knights. Those look pretty good. But if you look at the squares they can go to, that guy, that guy, that guy. Actually, here, let me do this. Let me go. So here's this, and we're talking about this piece as well. What we can see is that all these squares that they're talking about, even that one, is controlled by this guy here. So his knights can't move forward whatsoever. They can't move forward at all. They're kind of stopped right now. Okay, well, that also means my pieces can't move right now. It's not such a big concern. And after rook a1, I should exploit the fact that they can't move forward and force them backward with the move f5. I played bishop f8. The idea being I'm letting my rook loose. I'm still defending the pawn. Always play bishop f8, but here don't play bishop f8. Here play f5, because now the knight has to go back somewhere. It says knight e to d2. And he does have this hole here, but maybe in the future I can kick him out of that square even. But this is a good move. And I'm scared to play this move normally, because, oh no, I'm opening my king. Well, what I have to think about is it's not just whether your king's open or not. It's whether he can exploit that. And he doesn't have any. His only long-range piece that could do that would be the queen. And the queen being on this diagonal, it's not that big of a deal. Even if it does appear there, I can just play king h8. I'm getting space. I'm restricting his pieces. This is all good. But I just said, nope, not going to open my king, and I skipped it. So it's that kind of short-term thinking that's kind of getting in my way here. Queen d2. I played knight e5. Again, I should try to play more actively and involve my pieces instead of just trading pieces away. And now you notice he got the f4 move. I should have got my f5 move in. You can see that his queen is better than my queen. You can see that his knight's in the center of the board doing stuff. My bishop's just defending a pawn. So now it's just kind of equal. f5 is a good move. I played queen b6 trying to attack this. What I should have played was c4. This rook doesn't have any prospects here. So if I play this move, I'm attacking the pawn that's defending the knight. And if he does something else, I'll take, he takes with the pawn, and now my rook has a file to deal with, to work on. You can even see it ends up with rook c8 at some point. So just giving this move here thinks about my worst piece. I just thought about making a one-move attack. Okay, I played a5 trying to pressurize the queen side, but I'm not going to win there. a4, and again, I need to be focusing on doubling rooks, or what are my strengths? And right now I am controlling the only open file. So double on that file, make sure I really control it. He played f6, which I thought was bad because g6. And the more this gets locked down, the less his attack seems, threatening to me. Queen f4, rook e6, great move. h4, and here I started to go wrong. I said, this bishop is doing Vishwa nothing. It's doing absolutely nothing. I want it to do something, but I can't move it because I'll drop this pawn. So I defended the pawn. Wrong plan. This rook is doing less than nothing. This bishop is at least defending 2 pawns, right? This rook isn't doing anything. So bring him in. Again, where am I strongest? Right now, this is a huge strength that I have. So I should utilize that strength and double rooks. My rook doesn't want to be behind this pawn. So it's just kind of missing stuff like that. And I played bishop d6, which I still should have played anyway. And now that I captured with the queen, he can pull my rook off the e-file. And now he gets the e-file. And this is a huge mistake. But yeah, that exchange just left him with... My one pull was that I had this e-file all to myself. And now he has the e-file for himself. I got scared. So I put a rook back here, which is just conceding everything to him. Yeah. And h5 just traps my king. Makes it really sad to deal with. And the rest is just kind of over. He really hammers the e-file. We trade. He wins a pawn. Yeah, and the game's just over from here. I'll click through a few moves here. Rook d7 is a blunder because trading queens is good for him. Yeah. So, it's just bad for me. Like, it just converts into a losing endgame. No way to hold it. We'll fast forward a little bit. Doesn't matter if these moves are good or bad. And there's kind of a funny checkmate at the end. Queen to f6. You can see this action here. That's going there. There. And there. Pretty cool. Pretty cool checkmate. Yeah, so the main things I'd say that we learned from this is here, thinking about what my opponent's moves might be and stopping those. It was just hard to play that move because there's been so many games I played recently, like 3 games that I played recently, where my opponent played h6 and it was just a waste of time. So here I have to establish that this knight is defending this pawn. Therefore, this knight has got to stay here. This knight's an important piece because it's defending this pawn here. So h6 protects this knight, which protects this pawn. That makes a lot of sense. Bishop e7 is just too slow. Also playing here, playing rook e8 instead of making the most forcing move in the position. Knight h5 is a threat. Rook e8, not really a threat. Because after rook e8, if he does nothing, what can I do? Move my bishop there with check? Move bishop there with check? Like, sure, he still loses castling, but why would I do that in 2 moves instead of 1? Also, my knight gets to f4, knight f4. I take off his bishop, like... Yeah, so I'm just a lot of evaluating things incorrectly. Queen b6 here instead of c4. I should look for pawn moves. right? A5, just following the wrong ideas. And king h7 is pretty bad, and rook d7 just gives him everything he wants. So recognizing my advantages and recognizing my opponent's moves, I would have to think about a lot more. Alright guys, this has been Turkish Films with Daily Chess Analysis, episode 10. I hope you enjoyed, and please make sure to stay Turkish. Goodbye.